first episode of the Bracketeers. Name is probably not going to stay that way because I came up with that on the fly. So, but but yeah, basically what I've done is I've taken a bunch of brackets from various people who submitted it, and then I compiled them all together to form a combined list, and then I decided to put the top 64 actors that were there up against each other in a bracket competition. And I'm going to offer thanks to everyone who submitted a list, which was, apart from me, because I can't vote myself, but Matt Kearns, Kenneth Lee, Case Cornelase, butchered his name, Coho, Brian Nussbaum, Dan Scabellin, Doug Castle, Kristen Smith, Abe Flores, Zadia Smith, and Manning Franks. They all submitted a list, so I'm going to announce matchups, and then like me, Nico, and Andrew will sort of weigh in on the matchup, sort of what we think's going to sort of who win. But yeah.
Yeah, brackets.
Yeah. Then I'm just going to get rid of the banners that I've got here. Then I'll just. Right. So our first matchup that we have is our number 1 seed, Tom Hanks, versus our number 64 seed, which will be Josh Brolin. So Nico, I know off here I gave you this one as an example, but sort of who do you think is going to could pull off winning this match, and who do you want to win?
I'm gonna say Josh Brolin, and the reason why I feel that way is because with Josh Brolin, he still he blends into a lot of his roles that he takes on, and you sometimes don't realize that it's him. With Tom Hanks, I mean, he goes for it when he gets the role, but you still can't help but notice that's Tom Hanks, and while he's acting his ass off, you still realize it's Tom Hanks.
Yep, and Andrew, what about you?
I'm just surprised Josh Brolin's the 64 seed. This is gonna be close, actually. Nico pointed out that Josh Brolin kind of tends to be a chameleon when it comes to his roles sometimes, but Tom Hanks also has such a legendary body of work, stretching all the way back to like the early 80s. I think Tom Hanks is gonna squeak this one out.
Yeah, this is one that's going to be interesting. There's definitely a few interesting ones that sort of ended up sort of where they did. But there's even some people that didn't make the 64 cut, which I was surprised didn't make it in either. But yeah, I think like when I open up the voting to people, I think Tom Hanks will probably take it out. But I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Brolin could pull off the upset, just given sort of how much into the geek realm the community really is. And anyway, move on to our second matchup. I can't remember what seeds they are now, but I'm not going to worry about that. But we've got Henry Fonda versus Adam Driver. So we've got classic actor versus a new up-and-comer. So, Andrew, what do you sort of make of this matchup?
Man, I love Henry Fonda. He's actually one of my personal favorite actors. But Adam Driver is on such a tear right now that I think he's going to stick in the minds of more people at this time. And as much as I would love to say Henry Fonda is going to win this one, I can see Adam Driver taking this one.
Yeah, this is one that I can see Adam Driver taking out easily as well. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Henry Fonda's work, but I do know who he is. And I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup that's going to see. Nico, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Henry Fonda was before my time. So I'm not really familiar with his work as much as I am Adam Driver. And I like what Adam brings to the table. I mean, I'm not just saying that because he's a Star Wars actor these days, but also Logan Lucky, one of the most underrated movies of the year it came out. It's like he really does well in that role. And then Black Klansman did a great job in that movie as well. And of course, before that, he was in Girls on HBO. That was a show I didn't watch, but I know it was very highly acclaimed in its earlier seasons. And part of it was because of Adam Driver and his acting performance. So I'm going to say Adam Driver will take this one.
The next matchup is another really interesting one, but we've got classic comedic actor Jim Carrey versus Kurt Russell.
Wow. Wow.
This is going to be a really interesting matchup. And I know Matt Kurds is probably going to vote Kurt Russell. Although I know he does like Jim Carrey as well, but yeah, I could see Kurt Russell maybe taking this out on Jim Carrey. But see what happens. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
This is who was 3 and who was 60? Because like this feels ridiculously closer than whatever seeds they have in this bracket.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, Kurt Russell, he's a phenomenal actor, but Jim Carrey, he's not afraid to take chances with the roles he takes on. And you can say he overacts at times, but sometimes people like it when they go that extra mile for a role. So for me, it's kind of dead even.
Yeah, Jim Carrey was the number 16 seed. Kurt Russell was 49. But Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
Either way, no matter who was that lower seed, that's so interesting that they're there. This wow.
I'm with Andrew on this. Like my mind is blown.
This is a pairing I never would have expected. Jim Carrey is so as an actor, I think that he's underappreciated because he can do really great dramatic work. Like look at Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He's phenomenal in that movie. I think because Jim Carrey, unfortunately, falls in the minds of most people, I would say, falls into like a specific category, whereas I think Kurt Russell kind of spans a lot of people's opinions. Kurt Russell's going to squeak this one out, in my opinion.
But yeah, but the next matchup we've got is Dustin Hoffman versus Sidney Poitier. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Ooh. I'm more familiar with Dustin Hoffman's work. So based on that alone, that would be my pick for the bracket. And also like Dustin Hoffman takes a wide variety of roles that I'm familiar with. Like he was Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda. He was obviously Rain Man. He believe he played like a shop owner in a movie Natalie Portman was in. That was kind of a movie geared toward kids. I might be thinking of. Am I thinking of the right movie?
Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
Yeah. That's the one.
So he's another one of those actors that likes to take chances and knows that like he's established such a great career that he's kind of bulletproof if he takes a bad role. So, and again, I just don't have enough inside knowledge on Sidney Poitier's filmography at the moment.
That's all fine. Not everyone's going to know everyone actors' filmography. But Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
Here's the thing Dustin Hoffman has, unfortunately, that Sidney Poitier does not necessarily have, and that's a comedic track record. Sidney Poitier is a great actor. Watch Raisin in the Sun, Lilies in the Field, or In the Heat of the Night, especially In the Heat of the Night. But I'm so more aware of his dramatic works, whereas Dustin Hoffman is like bounces back and forth between he does dramatic with Urban Cowboy and comedic with The Graduate and so on and so forth through the rest of his career. Dustin Hoffman I think is going to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same with Nico. I'm more familiar with Dustin Hoffman than Sidney Poitier. I think I've seen maybe half of Sidney's movies. So, but yeah, but I think Dustin could take this out because I think with a lot of the young people of this community, I think that's going to sway their votes to Dustin because they're not going to be familiar with Sidney Poitier. Unless you're Caleb Boatman, who I'm convinced is a vampire and just knows everything. But yeah, this next matchup is like you thought Jim Carrey versus Kurt Russell was interesting. This next one is even more interesting. We've got Leonardo DiCaprio versus Ryan Reynolds. Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
Well, that's an interesting one. That's something I wasn't expecting to hear. As much as I feel like DiCaprio has like what Nico said with Tom Hanks, it has a bad habit of when I see a DiCaprio film, I see DiCaprio acting. Very slightly do I actually see him slip into actual character, but he's got a better track record than Ryan Reynolds does, unfortunately. And Ryan Reynolds could be a good dramatic actor, but yeah, DiCaprio's got this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning the same. I think Leo could take this out. There's just like what you said, Andrew. I think Leo's got probably the better body of work, but I think the thing that could sway a lot of people with this is a lot of people may go for Ryan Reynolds because they're more in tune with his style of comedy. So it's definitely an interesting one. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I'm concerned that if Leo doesn't win this vote, he might go and take a role that requires him to do something incredibly insane just to sway people in the aftermath.
He's going to eat another bison heart.
Yeah, and get raped by another bear. I know that's not what happens, but I like to say it anyway. But I'm gonna go with Ryan Reynolds, and not just because of the Deadpool fame and whatnot, but he was in what was it? The movie he was in with Abigail Breslin when she was still young.
Maybe.
Definitely, maybe. I enjoyed that movie for what it was, and also the voices. That's a very underrated movie as well. So he has a good track record on him. And again, Leo DiCaprio, there's something to be said about. I know I mentioned it with a bunch of other people that they go for it. They go for it. Leo sometimes goes for it to the point that you realize he's going for it, and then you're just like, quit trying so hard.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
But yeah, our next matchup that we've got Will Smith versus Viggo Mortensen. Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is definitely one that I'm very curious to see how this goes, because this is box office versus just like indie darling. And I personally would give it to Viggo Mortensen. However, I think more people are going to be aware of Will Smith's work than Viggo Mortensen's. I mean, Viggo's got the Lord of the Rings and a couple of other well-known movies like Green Book and Witness and all those. But I think more people are familiar with Will Smith's work, as well as the fact that he is a two-time Oscar nominee and well-deserved. So I think that will balance it out just enough for Will Smith to win, even though I personally would pick Viggo Mortensen.
Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Will Smith's choice of roles that he takes can usually come into question, but he is a very solid actor when he gets a role he likes and a role that's good and is good at showcasing his abilities as an actor. Like, go back and watch some of the episodes of The Fresh Prince that went dark and dramatic. Like, he nails them. He knocks them right out of the park. And again, he's had a great many movies that he's been a part of where he gets to show his comedic range, his dramatic range. Viggo Mortensen, he's had some great roles too. So I really don't know who will come out on top. But I feel like Andrew made a good point here of like, it is box office versus indie darling. But again, that box office player still has a lot of street cred in regards to his acting career.
Yeah, I'm probably going to give it to Will Smith as well. Like, just basically everything that's already been said. It's pretty much sums it up. Like, I mean, Vigo could be could easily be the upset because a lot of people may vote for him because they may see that his role as Aragon trumps everything that Will Smith has done, and I mean Will Smith had, like, he may be box office, but he's also got a very wide range of flops as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Next up is a very interesting one for multiple reasons, because we've got two actors who have been in the same franchise together. We've got Robert Downey Jr. versus Chris Pratt. This is one that I'm probably going to give it to Chris Pratt because I think his body of work, he's had a lot more success on the screen. I think Chris Pratt, like he's got good Parks and Recreation, but like his movies and that, he's had a really interesting range when it comes to his movies. Nico, what do you make of Iron Man versus Star-Lord?
I'm going to go with RDJ on this one, and it's because it feels like Chris Pratt is in so many things now that he's essentially become a parody of himself, and that's literally what happened in the Lego movie, the second part. He got to play basically a parody of all the badass roles that he's had in recent memory. So he's having fun with his own career in that regard, but it shows that like he's a little overexposed. Robert Downey Jr., he's rangy. He's rangy. Like even before he got, even when he was having issues with drugs, he was still taking roles that allowed him to explore his range as an actor. Chaplin, and then afterwards, after he got clean, Sherlock Holmes. Tony Stark, of course, which is what he's become very well known for. He had a brief role in Chef because of his friendship with Jon Favreau, but it was still a great role for the limited amount of screen presence he had in that movie. And I haven't seen The Judge, but I'm pretty sure Andrew will say it's a good movie. So I feel like RDJ, he's an actor's actor. And even if he's taking like a role in a big franchise, he's still bringing like an actor's charm to that role.
And Andrew, what do you make of Iron Man versus Star-Lord?
The Judge is a good movie. Yeah, this is one where I think RDJ is going to take this one because he's been around a little bit longer. He's been able to show his dramatic chops more. Nico brought up Chaplin. He's also in Richard III, which is so interesting to see him in doing Shakespeare, but he's still good at it. But he can also do those comedic roles. And I think Chris Pratt, while I entertaining and charming, they tend to blend together for me. So I think RDJ is going to take this one.
Our next matchup, we've got former Mouseketeer Ryan Gosling versus former wrestler The Rock.
Oh, darn it.
And Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, thanks, Malcolm. This is almost the same thing when it came to Will Smith and Viggo Mortensen. I think Ryan Gosling is actually very underrated as an actor. this is another one where I personally would. You know what? This is probably going to be the closest one that we've talked about so far. I think Gosling's caliber of acting will be just enough to take this victory over The Rock, but like just barely.
And Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Okay, so this episode is Take 3's Bracketeers #1 actors. And the thing about this is Ryan Gosling is an actor. The Rock is more a movie star. Like, essentially, the attraction is The Rock is in this movie playing The Rock, but under a different name and under a different profession to fit the role he was given for this particular movie. Ryan Gosling, he tries to make he tries to make whatever role he's given feel different from a previous character that he played. And again, I it's weird that the wrestling guy is going against the wrestler, but I feel like Ryan Gosling should take this.
But yeah, I think Ryan Gosling will easily dodge the people's elbow and just and just avoid the Rock. Because I mean, while I do like the Rock, like I agree with sort of what everyone's been saying. The Rock sort of acting is kind of
it's not acting. It's just him being himself for whatever for whatever script he was given.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is going to be interesting to sort of see what happens with this one because because I'm pretty sure Coho is probably going to go Gosling anyway because of La La Land.
Of course.
and Hunter's probably going to go The Rock because of wrestling. So, but anyway, the next matchup we've got Jimmy Stewart or James Stewart, depending on which way you want to say his name, versus Ben Affleck.
Wow, interesting.
I'm going to kick this off because it's a really interesting one because, well, Ben Affleck has not been the greatest actor. I mean, he's had a few good roles. I mean, but he's been in a lot of sort of disappointments as well. And I mean, James Stewart, I'm familiar with a couple of his work. But yeah, this is tough for me. But I'm probably going to go slightly Ben Affleck because like what I said for one of the other matchups, I can't remember which one I said it for, but a lot of people probably going to be more familiar with Ben Affleck than they are with James Stewart. So, Nico, what do you sort of make of this matchup?
I think the end result of this particular matchup is going to come down to the ages of the voters and also what their tastes are in movies. Because, you go to the comic book crowd, the comic book movie fan base, and they'll probably side with Ben Affleck on this, regardless of how they feel about his portrayal of Batman, because, again, he was also in a bunch of Kevin Smith movies, and that is an audience for a lot of comic book nerds and Star Wars nerds like myself. Whereas Jimmy Stewart, he fits more of like the decades of the past movie going audience, and people like Jeremy Adams and Caleb Boatman who really appreciate the classics. So I say it's a toss-up depending on who the audience is that's voting.
And Andrew.
All right, look, I love Benny Affs as much as the next guy, but Jimmy Stewart wins this one. Okay, he's not only has he done like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and the Philadelphia Story and Vertigo and Rear Window, but my God, the scene where he's running through Bedford Falls during It's a Wonderful Life screaming, "Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls!" One of the greatest acting scenes I've ever seen in my life. Look, I love Ben Affleck. He's really good, but Jimmy Stewart, he's got this one.
But yeah, the next matchup I've got here is we've got Alan Rickman versus Gene Kelly.
Oh. Wow. Wow. Wow.
And I'm sorry, Andrew, but I'm going to start with you.
Oh, okay. I love Gene Kelly. Anyone who knows me, anyone who watches the shows in this community knows that I love my musicals. But Gene Kelly's also just he's a really good actor. He really is. But it's a completely different thing, unfortunately, when it comes to Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman is such an actor's actor. He's also got so many more movies that are really well known now. Nico's right, and this is definitely going to be an age difference thing. The age of the voters for this one is definitely going to kick in. But that's not to say Alan Rickman doesn't deserve the win, because if you look at his filmography, most of the time he's batting a really high average. So, yeah, Alan Rickman, I think, will take this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Alan Rickman on this as well. But I do think that Gene Kelly could easily take it out, but this one's going to come down to the wire. And Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
We all lose because one of them has to lose. That's all I'll say. They're fucking good actors.
The next matchup we've got Denzel Washington, yay, versus Charlton Heston. And I'm going to go with this. This is an interesting one because Charlton Heston's got a really interesting filmography out there. Like he's got Planet of the Apes, he's got Ben Hur, but Denzel Washington is probably a higher regarded actor. Maybe I don't know. Like they're both really good actors, but I think Denzel Washington could easily take it out because I think a lot of people are going to sort of look at maybe Oscar wins for this one, or maybe sort of his level of work he's done recently and all that. So it's really going to be it's a tough one to call. Nico, what do you say about this one?
Wow. Ben-Hur is too damn long. But this is another toss-up. It's sort of old school meets new school here, because Denzel, he's an actor's actor for a modern-day audience. Charlton Heston is an actor's actor for the audience of his time, which was a few decades prior. So, I mean, he's not as old as some of the other actors we've seen on this list so far, but still, like the 70s and 80s, still kind of a ways away considering we're almost at 2020. So it's a toss-up.
But next on the list, we've got.
Wait, did you go to Andrew or not?
Andrew, what do you say about this?
I'll make this quick. Charlton Heston's best performance is Soylent Green, but it's still not as good as Denzel Washington's best performances. I think Denzel Washington takes this one.
Right. This time, next up, we've got two big actors from the Geek Sphere from different universes as well. We've got Harrison Ford versus Bradley Cooper. And Nico, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Harrison Ford is basically like the action hero to end all action heroes. Whereas Bradley Cooper, we've seen him play a guy who drank too much. We've seen him play a raccoon from space. We've seen him play a professional singer and actually do his own singing in the movie in which he sang. Didn't he play a photographer in a movie? So like we get a lot of range from Bradley Cooper. And I'm not saying Harrison Ford doesn't have range. It's just he picks a lot of the same roles, at least from the movies I've seen him in, which is always like the action hero, the cool guy, or something that's a blend of both. Even Indiana Jones, that's a professor at a college, is still kind of a cool dude, is still kind of the action hero type role because of what he does to teach his students, which is he goes to random parts of the world and finds artifacts and usually has to go through a bunch of death traps to get to those artifacts. So if we're basing this on range of roles, I would say Bradley Cooper.
And Andrew.
I love Harrison Ford actually, and I'm going with Bradley Cooper, but I love Harrison Ford. He's effortless a lot of the times, but Bradley Cooper's range has been a little bit better proven than Bradley Cooper's. When you take a look at The Hangover versus American Sniper, it's just like a little bit of a wider range. So as much as I love Harrison Ford, Bradley Cooper, I think, will eke this one out.
I will say though, it's awesome to see Harrison Ford playing a Great Dane in The Secret Life of Pets 2. It's wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
But yeah, and for me, I'm going to go Harrison Ford on that as well. It's just one that's I think he's probably going to take this out. I mean, Bradley Cooper is great, and I wouldn't be surprised if he causes the upset. But I think Harrison Ford is more well loved in the community. I don't know sort of why, but yeah. But anyway, this next matchup is probably going to break a lot of people because we've got Robin Williams versus Keanu Reeves.
Oh God!
But I'm going to start with this one. I think Robin Williams easily takes this. I think he's a more beloved sort of comedic actor. Like I think Keanu Reeves has been sort of really all over the place, but looking over Robin Williams' body of work, I think his body of work as a comedian, I think, could take it out. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Robin Williams takes this one. I really do like Keanu Reeves. I think that Keanu Reeves is hilarious. If anything, Toy Story 4 kind of proves that. But Robin Williams, you have things like Dead Poet Society and Good Morning Vietnam. And why am I blanking on the other one?
Flubber.
What's that? Flubber? Yeah. But yeah, so I think I love Keanu, but Robin Williams, I think, will take this one.
But yeah, Nico, what do you make of this match?
This one hurts. But I feel like nostalgia is going to win out. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it's been a long time since Robin Williams passed, but we still all remember the great roles that he had, the great memories that we had watching him in those roles, and we still have Keanu Reeves in existence, and so we're still gonna get a bunch of those roles. But I feel like nostalgia is gonna win out here. Robin Williams is gonna take it.
Now this next matchup is so much on the different end of the spectrum when it comes to actors. We've got Charlie Chaplin versus Oscar Isaac.
What? What? I honestly feel like Oscar Isaac could play Charlie Chaplin in a biography if he wanted to.
But yeah, Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
We would not have cinema as we know it today without Charlie Chaplin. And Charlie Chaplin was not only one of the pioneers of filmmaking, but he was also one of the biggest risk takers of filmmaking during a time when it wasn't totally set in stone what was a risk and what wasn't yet. So I feel like Charlie Chaplin is going to take this.
And Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is definitely an interesting pairing. I'll say that. I think Oscar Isaac just doesn't have the roles necessary to win. Inside Llewyn Davis he's great in that movie, but everything else, I don't think that he's a powerful enough presence just yet. So Charlie's Chaplin.
Oscar can become that powerful presence, though. It's just a matter of he needs like a few more years of experience taking certain roles, but he doesn't have the repertoire yet that Charlie Chaplin has.
But yeah, like for me, I think Charlie Chaplin could take this out, but in saying that, knowing our audience as well, Oscar Isaac is really big in the Star Wars presence as well, so that could be a push that he needs to take out Charlie, but it's going to be real.
I'm part of that Star Wars presence, and I'm voting for Charlie Chaplin.
But yeah, it's going to be what I was meaning by that is it's going to be really interesting sort of what happens with that one. But the next one we've got Jack Nicholson versus Liam Neeson. But and I'm going to start with this. Like, this is a battle of the two actors that have played a Batman villain in movies. But I think Jack Nicholson is probably going to take this out easily. I think Liam, while I do like Liam's roles, I don't think he's done enough sort of big roles to overthrow Jack. Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is. Yeah, I think Jack Nicholson will take this. There are some people that I think will win because a lot of it has to do with legacy. Even though Jack Nicholson is, I think, one of the best actors, Liam Neeson has Schindler's List and not really much else that I think compares to some of Jack Nicholson's best roles.
And Nico.
I feel like since maybe as early as The Phantom Menace, Liam Neeson kind of got stuck into like always taking the big action movie roles, and he's kind of been typecast as that now. And as he's gotten older, it's shown that he needs a stunt double more and more. Jack Nicholson, he took he's another one of those guys who took a lot of rangy roles that allowed him to explore his acting. Obviously, the Joker being one of them, but also Psycho being another movie that he was in. Or it was Psycho, correct? The one where he does Here's Johnny. What movie am I
thinking? The Shining.
I'm sorry. I don't read a lot of Stephen King books or watch his movies, so forgive me if I screwed that up. But he has taken on a wider variety of roles in his career. So he's knocked them all out of the park. So I feel like just on that alone, that should give Nicholson the win here.
But yeah, I've gone to everyone for this one. I believe so, yeah. But this next matchup, we've got Paul Newman versus Gene Hackman. And I'm going to start with Andrew.
Oh, gee, thanks. Oh, God, this is so hard. This is so hard. Oh, man. I think more people in this community will be a little bit more aware of Paul Newman's work than Gene Hackman's. They're both fantastic. They're both legends for a reason. But I think Paul Newman has a little bit more of the recognition and reputation than Gene Hackman does.
And Nico?
These are two guys who I honestly keep forgetting they exist, despite the fact that I've seen at least one movie that both of them have been in. I just checked, and Paul Newman was Doc Hudson in Cars, and Gene Hackman, he was in the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. And I keep forgetting that every time you say Paul Newman, I honestly think of Paul Rubens, which I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up in this bracket at some point too. So I might not be the right person to ask about this particular matchup.
But yeah, this is one I'm probably going to go Gene Hackman slightly on this. But this is this would go either way, pretty really. But the next matchup we've got Christian Bale versus Humphrey Bogart. Another really interesting matchup. I'm going to go to Nico first on this.
Excuse me while I look up who. I'm pretty sure I've seen maybe one movie that Humphrey Bogart is in, but I couldn't put my finger on it if I did. So,
he was in The African Queen. It was either Gone with the Wind or Casablanca. I think he was in one of them.
Casablanca.
It was Casablanca, and I think I've seen that movie, but I'm going to go with Christian Bale. And again, it has to do with the range of the roles that he's taken. Obviously, Batman being one of them, but also I loved his performance as Dickie Ward in The Fighter. And yeah, I'm just going to go with Christian Bale, and I don't want to say any additional movies he may or may not have been in for fear of embarrassing myself.
And Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is actually a really interesting matchup. This is one I would not have thought of, but when you put them together, it makes a lot of sense. This is another one where I think my personal choice is going to get the loss here. I personally love Humphrey Bogart. His performance in, as mentioned, Casablanca, but also The Treasure of the Sierra Madre and The Maltese Falcon are so fantastic. But Christian Bale has a lot of great performances under his belt as well. Plus, he has the more recognition for the time being. So, as much as I would pick Humphrey Bogart, I think Christian Bale is going to take this one.
But this next matchup is pretty interesting. I've got probably Bogart in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bale takes it out too, because a lot of people had him higher on their list, which is why Christian Bale has the highest seed in this. But we've got Eddie Murphy versus James McAvoy. But yeah, this one I'm going to go James McAvoy on this. Eddie Murphy has been in some good movies. I've never really liked a lot of his movies. There's probably a handful of his that I think are legitimately good movies, but the rest I either don't care or I just haven't seen about them. So I'm going to go James McAvoy on this. But Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is an interesting one because these are two kind of more contemporary ones that are pretty different. I'm gonna go. I think as much as his later work hasn't necessarily always proven his abilities, except for Dreamgirls, where he should have won the Oscar that year. I think Eddie Murphy has a little bit more of a legacy than James McAvoy does. Not to say that James McAvoy won't in the future, but I think Eddie Murphy's legacy will take this one for him in this case.
And Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I've talked a lot about range on this stream, and James McAvoy has taken a wide range of choices in terms of the characters he plays, and also in terms of the genres of the movies he acts in. Eddie Murphy, for the most part, has stayed within comedy, but he's also taken a wide variety of characters. And sometimes those characters and the portrayals he puts in them make up for the fact that he's kind of sticking to his guns with comedy. Also, his legacy in terms of not just movies, but Saturday Night Live. He's one of the most respected veterans of the show. And I haven't seen Dreamgirls, but everyone apparently says that he should have won the Oscar for the year that movie was nominated. So, and that wasn't a comedy role. So, if I feel like Eddie, and also if you count the Netflix specials, Eddie Murphy is kind of on a career resurgence. This might, and the voting of this poll might actually show where he stands in terms of that resurgence.
But yeah, this next matchup is very interesting. We've got Jake Gyllenhaal. I couldn't be bothered.
Gyllenhaal.
I know. As you'll see when I put the thing up, I couldn't be bothered trying to spell his last name. Versus Michael Fassbender.
What if it was Jake Gyllenhaal versus Maggie Gyllenhaal? That would have been an interesting.
If I may have happened if I just kept it at my original plan of doing actors and actresses, but I thought do actresses as its own bracket. So, but Andrew, what do you make of Jake Gyllenhaal versus Michael Fassbender?
This is an interesting one. I like this pairing, because they're both better known now, so you can't make the argument that one's going to be better known in this case. I think this is going to be a case where it's not a legacy issue. It's not a more well-known at the moment issue. This is definitely going to come down to who people think is the better actor. And I personally would probably pick Jake Gyllenhaal, as much as I think Fassbender is a great actor.
Yeah, I'm probably going to lean towards Jake as well on this. This is one that when I saw this happen, it was really interesting. As you'll see as we go further down, there's so much matchups, which is pretty much geek franchise versus geek franchise at times as well. But Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I think Andrew hit the nail on the head. It's going to come down to who you think is the better actor, and also what movies have you seen these two particular people in, and how do they compare to one another? What are your tastes, and how were these actors in those particular tastes that you have?
But this next matchup boils down to Wolverine versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's Hugh Jackman versus Alec Guinness. And I'm going to go first on this one. I'm going to go Hugh Jackman on this, and not because he's close to my country, but because I think he's had a lot of, in his role since the first X-Men, he's had a lot of interesting range when it comes to movies. Alec Guinness, I think, haven't seen a lot of his movies, but what I have seen is he's good in Star Wars. Don't really know much about, don't really like him in some of his other roles, so it's going to be interesting. And I mean, I don't know which camp Nico's in, but I know a lot of people probably prefer Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan over Alec Guinness. But Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
First off, I am on Team Ewan, and secondly, I'm going to go with Hugh Jackman on this simply because I know Alec Guinness as crazy old Ben Kenobi, and I don't know him as any other roles that he's played. Whereas with Hugh Jackman, yes, I do know him as Wolverine, as Logan, but I also know him as P.T. Barnum. I know him as the guy from Les Miserables. Unfortunately, I don't know that guy's name because I didn't watch Les Miserables, but still, it goes down to range once again, and Hugh Jackman has had a wide variety of roles, and he's shown that he has a wide variety of skills that he can lend to each role.
But yeah, to answer your question about who he is in Les Miserables, he's prisoner 24601, also known as John Valjean.
Yeah.
And Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
First of all, if you have the chance to see the Les Miserables movie, don't see the stage version instead. Yeah, I think Hugh Jackman's going to take this. As much as I do love my classic movies, Alec Guinness is one that I need to see more. I haven't gotten to see Bridge Over the River Kwai yet. I've been meaning to. I haven't seen the Lavender Hill Mob. I've been meaning to see that one as well. I've really only seen him in Star Wars, which upsets me that I haven't. But yeah, Hugh Jackman is he does have a wide career, and he's just better known. Hugh Jackman's going to win this one.
But yeah, the next matchup we have is Samuel L. Jackson versus Peter O'Toole. This is, but yeah, this is an interesting matchup. But Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this.
Man, this is interesting. I think Samuel L. Jackson doesn't get enough credit as a dramatic actor. He's actually a really good dramatic actor. I think people know him more for his like action stuff. And Peter O'Toole, once again, he's got a wide range. You can do Lawrence of Arabia, but then go right into My Favorite Year, which he's great and he's hysterical. But I think Samuel L. Jackson's relevancy at the moment, and his actual acting capabilities will push him over Peter O'Toole.
But yeah, Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I gotta go with Sam Jackson on this one. Let's see here. Mr. Glass, Mace Windu, Nick Fury, all of his roles in Quentin Tarantino's directorial filmography, like whatever you get, hell, even Frozone from The Incredibles, could a lot of those be considered action movies? Yes, but he brings something different to each of those roles that he's given. Whereas Peter O'Toole, I had to look up what movies he's been in and if I have actually seen them. And the only one I've seen so far here on this list, although I'm still scrolling down, is Pixar's Ratatouille. So I have not seen enough of Peter O'Toole's work, but that's beside the point. I feel like Sam Jackson, he's got both the movie star factor, but he's also an actor's actor when you give him the right stuff to work with.
But yeah, I'm probably I'm leaning towards Samuel Jackson on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Peter O'Toole pulls out the upset, just based on the community and how they could vote. So, this next matchup, we've got Cary Grant. Cary Grant, I don't know why I just read that the wrong way for it, versus Ian McKellen. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards Ian McKellen on this. While I do think Cary Grant is a great actor, I think Ian McKellen has shown he's got a lot more range. And I think that's what's going to sort of come down to, because really, if it's his geek roles of playing Gandalf or Magneto versus some of his like other British stuff, like he was also in Richard the Third and stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I feel like you got to go with the person that's sort of left a bigger impact on society as we know it today, and that's arguably Ian McKellen. Like you mentioned the geek roles that he's had, but those geek roles had a gigantic impact on culture and society we live in. And he has shown range. And I feel like it's Ian's race to win here.
And Andrew.
As much as I agree with you guys, I think Cary Grant might actually pull this one out. Cary Grant's got he does both main genres very well. He's hilarious in Arsenic and Old Lace and Bringing Up Baby and His Girl Friday, but he can also do like the dramatic thrillers like North by Northwest. Not to say that Ian McKellen can't, because he absolutely can. Plus, he can do Shakespeare as well. But I think Ian McKellen might be very influenced by Cary Grant. And Cary Grant's legacy, I think, might just be just strong enough to take this one.
But yeah, the next matchup that we've got here, we've got Daniel Day-Lewis versus Mahershala Ali.
Oh my God! Oh, Jesus Christ! Wow!
And I'm going to start with Andrew on this.
Oh God! Oh, this hurts because you put up Daniel Day-Lewis against almost anyone else in this bracket, and it's a sweep. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. But Mahershala Ali has proven to be arguably one of the best actors of this decade, if not century, to be completely honest, in my opinion. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is going to pull this out mainly because he has a longer track record of consistency. Not to say that Mahershala Ali is not does not.
But yeah, I'm probably going to go with Daniel Day-Lewis on this, just because, like his acting role has just been in, and yeah, you've got a lot of big stuff, and like also the Oscar wins may come into effect here as well, because Daniel Day-Lewis is the more decorated actor, but Mahershala Ali is still sort of up and coming. So, and because I think because he's still up and coming and still sort of getting into his role, I think that's why Daniel Day-Lewis could take him out here. But the next matchup.
Hold on a minute. First off, this is a finals round matchup. Like, how is this in the first round of the bracket? My God. Secondly, Daniel Day-Lewis goes that extra mile and knocks it out of the park. He basically checks all the boxes that Leonardo DiCaprio misses when he goes that extra mile. But again, Mahershala Ali, throw in his television work as well, and he's been every single thing you've given him to do, he's knocked it out of the park. He's the best thing about Luke Cage season 1, and the moment his character dies, the show takes a complete 180 for the worse. And he's been in so many movies that have been nominated for Oscars in the past couple of years. This hurts. This physically hurts to pick a winner. So I'm going to be the odd man out and just pick Mahershala Ali because it's a young man's game. So I feel like if anyone can take Daniel Day-Lewis down, it's Mahershala Ali.
But yes, this next matchup we've got is we've got Gary Oldman versus Michael B. Jordan.
Huh. Well, that's an interesting pairing.
But yeah, I've got Gary Oldman for this one by a mile. Just because I think his body of work is there, and I think he's definitely got a lot of good roles there. I think Michael B. Jordan, just like what I said with Mahershala Ali, like he's still coming up. Like he's gotten a few sort of good roles in there, but I think his few roles that he's probably really known for, whether it's Creed or Killmonger, I don't think that's enough to tackle Gary Oldman's body of work. Andrew, what do you think of this?
This is a very interesting pairing. Um, I think it's going to come down to this one thing: is that Michael B. Jordan is at the moment kind of the leading actor and kind of just the leading actor. Whereas Gary Oldman is not only able to be that leading actor that takes control of the screen, but he's also so good at being a character actor, just supporting the other actors that are the lead. And it's because of that wide range that I think Gary Oldman will take this one.
And Nico.
This is a chameleon versus a peacock, to use an animal metaphor here. And I feel like it goes back to what I said about Josh Brolin versus Tom Hanks. And yeah, in this case, Michael B. Jordan is taking Tom Hanks' role here, in that you give him a role and he'll knock it out of the park, but you still realize it's Michael B. Jordan as you watch the movie he's in. Whereas Gary Oldman, he blends in so well into everything he does. And yeah, great character actor, great supporting actor, great lead actor. Whatever you give him to do, he'll do it. And sometimes you don't even realize it's him doing it. And that's when you know you have a great actor on your hands, is when you make them believe that there's somebody else.
Can I just add one thing real quick? I think Gary Oldman might be the dark horse to take this entire thing. I really do.
I don't disagree with that.
But yeah, moving on to our next one, we've got Robert De Niro versus Seth Rogen. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Seth Rogen has tried to take some more serious roles as time has gone on, but he always goes back to comedy when he needs to. But then again, Robert De Niro, they're both rangy actors, but they also have their noticeable specialties. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go with Robert De Niro, and it's for the weirdest reason. It's because Seth Rogen did a sort of a tribute to Robert De Niro in Neighbors 2. Neighbors 1, excuse me. So like even Seth Rogen respects what a great actor Robert De Niro is by having that scene in one of the movies that he did. And I think if you asked Seth Rogen to literally vote on this particular poll, he would also choose Robert De Niro in that moment.
And Andrew, what do you think of this matchup?
I respect Seth Rogen. I think he's a good comedic actor. I think that he did really good as Steve Wozniak in Steve Jobs. Probably his most dramatic work to date, questionably. But Robert De Niro's iconic performances just outweigh Seth Rogen's iconic performances in this instance.
And like for me, I do think Robert De Niro will probably take this out. Seth Rogen, I do like a lot for his comedy, and I mean, I think if any causes an upset, I think this one could potentially do that. So yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see what happens.
Comedy is one of the hardest things to do. People. There's this weird stigma that comedy is one of the easiest things to do, but no, it's actually the hardest, because like if you can't get the laugh, then you're done for. And Seth Rogen knows how to get a laugh, but then again, so does Robert De Niro. So it's like, what do you take here? And I love how we got like a list of so many tough matchups, And then this one just stands out in that it feels like there's a clear-cut winner here.
But yeah, the next matchup that we have is we've got Matt Damon versus Tom Hardy.
Huh.
And I mean, this one shocked me with the fact that Matt Damon ended up being the highest seed. But yeah, I do think Matt Damon could potentially take this out, but I do also see Tom Hardy taking the upset. So I'm probably going to go for the upset on this. Tom Hardy will take it out. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Okay, here's the issue, because I was gonna say Matt Damon will take this because anything Tom Hardy is in, you kind of realize it's Tom Hardy, and it takes you out of, and you're like, oh look, it's Tom Hardy, and he's playing this guy. But you're not really focused on the character; you're focused on Tom Hardy. But then again, you could make the same argument about Matt Damon for a couple of his roles. Like you're like, oh, it's Matt Damon, and he's playing that guy. But I'm gonna say Matt Damon simply because his feud with Jimmy Fallon, no, not Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel is hilarious, and Tom Hardy is not feuding with anyone in late night TV right now. So Matt Damon gets the point based on how is he keeping you entertained on your late night television. And I think my dog just pooped in a room she was not supposed to because I just heard my mom screaming in the background.
And Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is one where I actually really like both of these actors. Okay, so I just had a match recently where Matt Damon came up and I didn't know the answer. So I watched the clip afterwards, and it's the one thing that Matt Damon has that Tom Hardy doesn't. It's the Scotty Doesn't Know clip from Eurotrip. I can't see Tom Hardy doing something like that and pulling it off. I love Tom Hardy, but I can't imagine him doing something like that or like the silly things that Matt Damon is able to do. I can't see him playing the role he did in Dogma. So as much as I respect both of these actors, Matt Damon has the comedy factor. So Matt Damon, I think, will get this one.
But yeah, the next matchup is going to be really interesting because we've got Al Pacino versus Chris Evans.
Ooh.
Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Wow. I honestly don't know what to make of this matchup. This is basically a what's your preference of movies sort of matchup here. Because, I mean, with the exception of comedy, they both kind of exist in different genres of movies. And I guess you could give maybe a slight edge to Chris Evans simply because he's also been making the jump into directing. And so, like, he's getting to give you the experience of great movies from another perspective than he usually does. And also, a lot of the roles that he takes on have been entertaining. But not saying Al Pacino's roles haven't been entertaining either, but Al Pacino was in one of the worst Adam Sandler movies of recent memory, so he has that against him.
Andrew, what do you make of Al Pacino versus Chris Evans?
Well, this is definitely interesting. And honestly, their careers kind of have like an opposite effect. Chris Evans kind of started out in like lesser known movies, either that or in ones that aren't really that good. And then slowly started to really increase in not only his presence and his acting ability, but the movies that he's in. Whereas Al Pacino kind of goes the opposite direction towards the later end of his career. However, I think Al Pacino's legacy is a little bit stronger than Chris Evans is, or at the moment. And I think Al Pacino's legacy will give him the edge in this matchup.
Yeah, I think Pacino has enough legacy to maybe to carry him through. Because I mean, there is a reason he's the highest seed because a lot of people had him really high on their list. So, but it's going to be interesting. But the next matchup, we've got Brad Pitt versus Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this.
This is one that makes so much sense, to be completely honest with you. I never thought about that until now. I think Brad Pitt squeaks by on this one. I think Clint Eastwood's legacy is very strong. However, I think when you throw in things like Snatch and his performance in True Romance, Brad Pitt just has the edge with characters and performances like that, where sometimes Clint Eastwood, they can sort of blend together.
And Nico, what do you make of this?
My take on this is it comes down to a "what have you done for me lately" sort of deal. And if you weigh The Mule, which was Clint Eastwood's last movie that I can remember at least, versus Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I haven't seen either movie, but I know that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got a more positive reviews than The Mule. So I'm going to go with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly Brad Pitt as well. I've never really been that big of Eastwood as an actor. Like most of his roles seem to have been very similar in ways. Because I mean, he like just especially in the era when he just did Western after Western after Western. But yeah, this next matchup is going to be really interesting because we've actually got two very great classic actors. We've got Marlon Brando versus James Dean. And this is going to be really interesting because James Dean only has 3 movies. So, um, so I think Marlon Brando might be able to take it out because just filmography alone. But if James seen 3 movies, it could be enough. Because I mean, there's Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, and I'm blanking on the other one.
East of Eden.
East of Eden. Yeah, I mean, there are 3 really good movies, so that could be enough for James Dean to pull off the upset. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
I'm a little biased on this one, unfortunately, because I've been meaning to see those movies, and I haven't seen any of those 3. And I think that is going to be a common enough occurrence in the voting, whereas Brando has The Godfather, and he has Apocalypse Now, and he has A Streetcar Named Desire as well, and Guys and Dolls. So I think Brando's gonna take this one.
And Nico, this one might. I don't know how familiar you are with these actors, but what do you think of this matchup?
I'm going to say Marlon Brando simply because he lived long enough to explore more roles and become rangy and well known, whereas James Dean, his career was obviously cut short. And I haven't seen any of James Dean's movies that he's been in. I'm more familiar of the Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches than I am of the movie career of the actual actors. So I'm gonna go with Marlon Brando here.
We hinted at this one a little bit earlier on, but we've got the other Obi-Wan coming up now. We've got Robert Redford versus Ewan McGregor. Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
As much as I love Ewan McGregor, I think that he's actually one of the more underrated actors working today, and I think underappreciated. Robert Redford is one of the best well-rounded actors that I've ever seen. His dramatic work, his comedic work, his thrillers, all of that are so impactful and so legendary and worthy of praise that it's going to overtake you. And even though I think that he's amazing.
And Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
I did say I was Team Ewan, but there's also no denying Robert Redford's body of work. I guess it all comes down to how much do you respect the prequel trilogy of Star Wars and the work that Ewan McGregor put into that particular body of work in his career. Because there's an argument to be made that of everyone within the prequel trilogy, he is working the hardest to sell you on the movies that they're making. And when you're that passionate, it can sway people over. But again, it's a tall mountain that he's got to climb here because, again, Robert Redford's body of work. I'm going to say Ewan, but that's personal bias.
It's probably the same for me, actually. I'm probably going to go Ewan McGregor for the same reason. I'm just biased to Ewan. Robert Redford, I do like as an actor. But I think I don't know. This is going to come down to sort of how much the community have seen Robert Redford's movies and like him. Because Ewan has done some great stuff as well. Because he was in Moulin Rouge, Down with Love, both train spotting movies, Robots, and so he's had a pretty good body of work as well. So it's going to be really interesting. This next one is going to be even more interesting because we've got the subject of next week's episode of Rankum, Tom Cruise, versus Mark Hamill.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm going to kick it off this. I think Tom Cruise takes us out. Nothing against Mark Hamill, but aside from Chucky, the Joker, and Luke, I mean, those are some great movies. I don't see him taking out Tom Cruise, who's had a lot of iconic roles, a lot of iconic movies out there. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Okay, so again, I'm going to reference the title of this episode. Take 3's Bracketeers, episode number 1, actors. Doesn't say movie actors. It just says actors. So that means that if we can, I guess you can also count the additional things they've been in terms of television and in terms of straight to DVD stuff. And Mark Hamill, you mentioned the Joker, you mentioned Luke Skywalker, you mentioned Chucky, but he's also done Cockknocker in the View Askew universe. He was Alvin the Treacherous in the How to Train Your Dragon television series, which I'm pretty sure will be a question in tomorrow's random match that I will be competing in. And he was the Trickster in the Flash TV series. And also, he's very well respected in terms of even his work as Ozai in Avatar: The Last Airbender, the TV series. But basically, Mark Hamill, there are things you know he's in, and there are things you don't realize he's in. But once you look it up, you're like, wow, that was him. And he also knows how to keep you invested in the whenever he's not working. Can Tom Cruise really say the same thing? So I feel like Mark Hamill is the better actor. I feel like he's the better human being. Not saying that Tom Cruise is a terrible human being, but just Mark Hamill, he deserves the win for everything he does, not just this bracket, but in life.
Also, there's a rumor that Mark Hamill might be coming back as a live-action Joker for Crisis on Infinite Earth. So,
if that happens, I will be very, very happy.
But Andrew, what do you make of this matchup?
This is really interesting. I had to look up Mark Hamill's IMDb a little bit. And I think one movie that we kind of forget that he's in is Kingsman: The Secret Service, where he actually does a really great job as the professor. However, I think that Tom Cruise is someone who doesn't tend to get enough credit as an actor. Yet most of the time he's doing more of the showy, like, movie star role. But when you look at things like Rain Man, like The Color of Money, like Magnolia, Born on the 4th of July, he actually delivers a great performance. Not to say that Mark Hamill doesn't, but I think Tom Cruise it'll be close. I think it'll be close, but I think Tom Cruise will just take this one.
Yeah, and the last matchup that we've got Morgan Freeman versus Russell Crowe. This is going to be interesting. I've got Morgan Freeman slightly in this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Crowe can pull it off as well. Nico, what do you make of this matchup?
Oh, this one's a hard one. Jesus. I guess it comes down to the movies you like. Morgan Freeman, this one hurts. This one hurts because they're both good at whatever you give them to do. They're rangy. They can do stuff you don't expect them to do. God. Andrew, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the same thing. It's going to come down to personal preference. If I had to choose personally, I think Russell Crowe has had a little bit more of a showier career than Morgan Freeman has. But this is definitely, as you said, Nico, this is definitely one that's going to come down to personal preference. So this is arguably my top two for closest races.
Yeah. But that brings us to sort of the end of the first round matchups. And I'll open the voting up tomorrow. And it will be open for a week because I've got a site that I made the bracket up on and all that. Then it's got voting, so I'll probably drop it tomorrow at some stage.
By the way, keep that poll open for a week because there are people who are pissed at you that you closed the bracket submitting so soon.
Well, I know. It was more of a case of when the poll will definitely be open for a week. The reason I closed the list submissions early is I've already got a good range of sort of numbers, and if I added more, it's going to get really confusing because there's so many people that made this just because of one person had it in their top 5, and I've had so many people tied because of that, and it just really made it really hard. Got really harder going on, so that's why I stopped it at 12, which is probably the good amount of lists. But as I said to both Cody and Brian, because I know those were the ones that commented, I'll make sure that they get in on the next one. next month because I'm going to make this a monthly thing because this was fun. And like each week I'll do a video like this, try and get a couple of people on, and then we can talk about the second round matchups that go on, and that. But the next month's bracket, we're going to go to the other side. It is going to be actresses, so it's going to be another interesting race. See what happens there, but yeah, Andrew, where can people find you online?
First of all, hashtag justice for Paul Giamatti. He should be on this list. But you can find me on Facebook if you really want to talk to me. You can find me on Letterboxd under Andrew Barr, one word, the capital of the A and the B, on the A and the B, I should say. And oh yeah, no, not Instagram and not Twitter. But also around the community here, I co-host, I play in matches, and spending time with lovely people such as Nico and Malcolm.
And Nico, where can people find you online?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 random meaningless numbers at the end on Discord, Instagram, and Snapchat coming soon. Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There's no letter G in there. Rolling Crits on YouTube, at Rolling Crits on Instagram. It's a tabletop show that my friends here in New Kensington, Pennsylvania have been very slow to upload episodes for. And of course, dedicated to art on YouTube and Facebook, at D2A Channel on Twitter and Instagram. And check out a recent video I did on that channel where I issued a call to action to help start promotion for Trivia for Thon 2 coming this January. We're raising money once again for the 4 Diamonds Pediatric Cancer Research Fund. I'll be opening up the donor box in January at the start of the new year, and we're going to have a bunch of matches to help promote everything.
Yeah, and you can find me hosting Full Metal Random each Tuesday. Tomorrow is going to be the Hell Train Dragon match between Nico Manning and Harley Brooke. You can also find me hosting Rankum every Sunday, and this week's episode is going to be Top 10 Tom Cruise Movies. And you can find me competing in trivia on Movie Trivia Face Off, Multiplex, Take 3, and until next week, see you next week. I don't have a catchy sign off for this yet.